everything linked up. I can see a few people joining already. Brilliant. And I can even see comments. This is always good. You know, Facebook likes to play tricks on us every now and then. Hide comments, make you think you're all on your own, feeling a bit lonely. Brilliant. I can see a few people joining. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Absolutely loads of samples to share with you tonight. We'll just give it a couple of minutes, give everybody a chance to join. The light's a bit weird this time of year. It's so dark. I've got plenty of light for my desk. Yeah, it'll be all right. Lots of familiar names joining. Brilliant. Thank you for being here, everyone. Now, I've seen that Michelle McCosh is here. I was thinking about Michelle today because it's about 0 here now. We've had quite a tough early winter, really. I think actually quite a lot of Europe's had it. But as I went out for a little walk, and I thought, Michelle tonight is going to tell me the temperature in Florida. I just know it. And it will be a lot warmer than it is here. Brilliant, lots of people joining. These new releases come round quick, don't they? I can see a few retailers joining us, and if we can, share links underneath. Michelle's answer, she said, don't ask me the temperature, you will cry. Okay, I think we'll make a start. If people join us a bit later, they can always watch on catch up and so on. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Thanks to retailers as well for joining us. As usual, please share links underneath. I still get asked fairly regularly in my group where to get hold of the stamps from, so any links are useful. And if you're not sure, if you look on Paper Artsy blog, there's a tab at the top of stockists, so worldwide stockists, you can find them there. Now I know some people will be joining later because you know, you just can't find a time to suit every country, every continent. But Facebook now deletes live videos. I will be downloading though and re-adding it to the group. I also put it in my own group here on Facebook, so you can have a look in Create with Kate. It will be there. I put it on my YouTube channel. You can look for the Catherine Wheel. And don't forget, here in Paper Artsy People, look at the tab at the top, look for guides, because all videos are pinned under the designer's name there. So all of my previous videos, technique videos, they're all pinned there and you can find them. Now, in a couple of weeks, same place, same time, I'm going to be back doing a craft along. So do join me then. I'll be sharing all those details on the socials, of course. So a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be doing a little bit more with you, and then that will be pinned under guides as well. Now, today I've got lots of samples. My samples have been all the way to Frankfurt and they've just arrived back. I've also got lots of samples from Paper Artsy blogger Katie Norgate. She sent me some fabulous things, and the really nice thing is Katie does things just a little bit different. We never confer, we always just go off and do our own thing, because sometimes once you've seen something you can't unsee it and it's hard to come up with your own ideas. So Katie's done something quite different. She's also done a bit of demoing at shows recently with Paper Artsy products, and she's doing an absolute sterling job there. So this release, I have got 3 stencils and 3 large stamp sets, and it's a little bit different this time. With my stamp sets, I decided to draw my designs a little bit bigger. what I've discovered with that, playing about with those, is it's given me a lot of flexibility. So you can keep those larger sizes, which work great for things like larger journal pages. But if you want to do something small, you can just chop them down. So that's, I found it really quite a flexible way of working. Now, what I'm going to do in a moment, I'm going to turn the camera and show you things. I've got lots of light on my workspace here, so it's much easier to see things here. I'm going to show you those, the 3 stencils, the 3 stamp sets, and I'm going to start today actually with the stencils. I think that makes more sense. When I look at the backgrounds that I've created with stencils, and then when you look at the samples, you can see what I've done and what Katie's done as well, and how we've incorporated those stencils into our backgrounds. So just hold on one second. I'm going to just turn the camera around, get everything in a good place, and a bit of light on. Okay, now hopefully that's light enough for everybody. And as I said, I'm going to start with stencils. I've just got a bit of craft card here. It's just a little bit easier to see. So I've got 3 stencils in this release. This is the first one I'm going to show you. This is PS503, this kind of circular, almost like a mandala shape. And then we've got this leaf shape, which is PS504. And this tumbling, sort of drifting feathers, which is PS505. These 2 are fairly fine. What I tend to do with stencils like this, I tend to keep them in their original packaging. Using paint and alcohol inks and things on stencils won't spoil the stencil. The only thing in my experience, and yes, I have done this numerous times, is when I chuck them all into one box and I try and pull one out and it gets tangled up, and then I rip the stencil. So I find if you just keep them in their packaging, they're absolutely fine. You can sew paint, alcohol inks, anything. So even though these are quite fine, they will be fine. I'm going to start then with this, the mandala one. Now everything is already on the blog, so there's loads and loads of close-up photos and step photos and things of how these projects have come together. And one of the things I've talked about on the blog post as well is when I design my stencils, I'm still very much a hand drawer. I get my Sharpie out and I draw it all by hand. Obviously there's a little bit of digi cleaning up going on, but I don't tend to go over the top. You can, obviously digitally now, you can do anything you like. Don't even get me started on AI. I've actually completely lost track of what's real and what isn't anymore. So I tend to keep mine hand drawn. So if you look closely at these sort of shapes, although it's a repeating pattern, they are all different. Every one of these is different where I've hand drawn them. Now, one of the nice things about working in anything circular is there's a lot of energy in a circle shape. I've just got a few prints here. A lot of the prints I make have been used up in projects, but these are alcohol ink. Now, I've done these on the gel plate, but of course you can just sponge paint through, and I have got examples of that as well, so it's not just for the gel plate. But once you get this circular shape, I'll just show you what I mean. So here's one of the new stamps. But the minute you put that in the middle, that gives off such an energy from the centre. It's such a great place to put your image, or even just something smaller. Sits so well in the middle there. And here's a couple more prints. And then a much lighter one, but I do like these like pick-up prints as well. You don't always want a lot of sort of in-your-face, highly patterned stuff. So that is PS 503, this kind of circular mandala shape. Now the next one, so this is the leaf, PS 504, and this is repeating in quite rigid lines. And again, I talked about this on the blog post. In contrast, the feathers are much more drifting, they're dynamic, there's a lot of movement there, but the leaf is quite rigid in its pattern and structure. It's just nice, sometimes you want movement, sometimes you don't. And even though this is the fine, very fine stem in the middle, it prints so nicely. So this is again alcohol inks on a gel plate, and a couple here, these are the partial prints. I do like these partial prints as well. Sometimes, again, you want a little bit of space in your backgrounds. And you'll see a lot of this in the backgrounds of the projects as well. And so final is the feather. This is PS 505. And a lot of movement in this one. And again, there's a fine centre of the feather there, but look how nicely that prints. A few little polka dots thrown in as well, just for good measure. And then a few lighter prints. And again, you will see examples as well where I've just sponged a bit of paint through on backgrounds, and it doesn't have to be all over. You will see in a couple of the projects I've literally just sponged through and picked out one little feather. Sometimes it's just nice to have those steps, you know, just to add and build up layers in the backgrounds. So you can see quite a difference there. Let me just grab the leaf one again. So you've got your nice kind of rigid rows of the leaves, and then there's a lot of movement with these kind of floating feathers. And I will just move those to one side. So let's have a look. I can move that now. Let's have a look at the stamp sets. So you can see this is the full sort of size of the rubber really. So I've gone much bigger this time, and it's been so much fun to play with. So there's a couple of birds here. Now this is interesting. When I start drawing, I never really think about what I'm going to draw. I just start drawing and see what happens. And what I've actually done is I've drawn these birds with like sort of human qualities. So they've got these longer arms, longer legs, but they've got no wings. And then I drew the hares, but the hares do have wings. Don't ask me where it all comes from. I've got no idea. Now, one of the really fun things about this is you can get the full size, but also you're going to see some samples where chopped it down to head and shoulders. Also, this one holding the sign, there's the go and the stop, which fits in the sign, but also the heart fits nicely in the sign, or you can put any message in there. So I'm going to show you in a moment a card where I've put in a little word, hello. So you can actually put any message inside there. And here, this one, look, has a bird on a bird. And something else you'll see that I've been playing with here is mixing up stamps. Now this is what I'm going to focus on in my craft along in a couple of weeks, putting different heads on and things, playing, adding the wings, taking wings away. Or do you call it, some people, do they call it Frankenstein or Frankenstamp or something, where you can just cut bits and mix and match it all up. It's so much fun. So that's KC018. Now the hares also really nice size, and this is KC019. So the hares have got these kind of butterfly wings. I don't know why. I just add things and think, oh, that'll do. And also this little robin here, now he has appeared on nearly everything, and I noticed Katie did that too when she sent me her samples. Plus this little spiral which is so useful for backgrounds, and then an extra little crown. And you can see I've got some cut out here. You can see the nice size of these. And again, these chop down really nicely, especially this one I found. You can chop him off at the bottom of his jumper and it just gives you a really nice, like, little head and shoulders, something for a smaller project. And finally fish. Fish are always popular. They just seem to work for any occasion. But again, I wanted a bigger fish. So this time we've got this much bigger fish, and all of them have got these big kissy lips, look. And so that's why I added the word kiss kiss. And I've been playing about with that, like, glossy accents, dimensional, to give them really a nice little pucker up right there. And also I've got fish doing things in different directions. So these two are meeting. So they can be meeting for a kiss, they can be meeting for a conversation. You could have a little word in there or whatever. So it's quite handy to have fish swimming in a different direction, especially as well when I added the swim against the current quote. So, you know, you can have just one going the opposite way, which you'll see a sample of. There's also the little pucker up quote here. And then just a little bit of like a wavy background. So I'm going to show you some samples of those now. And I will start with the birds. That's KCO18. Now, I was watching, as I'm sure many of you, I was watching Alison Bomber doing her fantastic new release on her live last night. And she had used like a moon stencil on a lot of hers, and she'd created this circle shape, which is interesting because I've done it in a different way, and so has Katie, how we've introduced this circle, because a circle is always a good place to put your image. It kind of spotlights an image, it frames an image, it gives a little bit of energy. And if you look in the background, I'll bring it a bit closer, here in the background you can see the leaf stencil. That's 504, and the different colour version of it here, the leaf stencil 504. And then I've just added the bird. Now this little robin is actually from the set with the hares, but you know, it just seems to just sit anywhere. It just creeps in. Now usually I work in my journals, but when I'm doing things for shows and samples, I work on loose cards, and actually this will probably go into my journal after this. But just something else I like to do, when I've layered up my prints, just those two little strips underneath there, I think sometimes I stitch, I've actually stapled those, it just kind of beds it into the page. It just makes it look a little bit more finished. You might spot as well, these are so the little tiny minis from, this was the mini release just before Christmas. Actually, I tend to keep mine out looking this. I have this little pot because I don't want to go rustling through drawers looking for things all the time. If it's out, it's the sort of thing that you'll use. So let's just have a look at another one. So here's another bird. And look, there's that robin again. And I've used the kiss, kiss, kiss. This is from the fish set. But in the sign, can you see how the heart just fits there? Now this time I've actually paper pieced him. This is using a gel print. And I have got, if you look in the guides, I've got a whole video already on paper piecing and making things look really complete using that sort of technique. In the background, you can see the feather stencil. And lots of mini stamping actually from the last release. But here is an example of a smaller project. So can you see here how I've cut it down? This is like head and shoulders. And I've used a little bit of a transparency under there and just layered up some prints. You see how easily that just cuts down for a smaller project. And now I want to share a couple that Katie's done. So this is Katie Norgate, Paper Artsy blogger, and she's done things slightly different in that she's cut out a circular window, and then look how he's built in, hanging his arms over the top. How casual. There's the little robin, look. But again, it works so nicely because it's sitting in that circular shape. Gorgeous colours on that too. Really lovely. And then quite different. Katie's gone really tonal here, all in green. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Really lovely. And do you know what she does? She puts me little notes on the back so I can read and see what she's done. Now, she says here she's blended my tints and metallic glaze to get sheen to the background, and she's given a little shout out on there to Mags. Mags did a video on that, and Katie's picked up on that technique. I'm sure the light's not great here, but there's quite a sheen to that background, and Katie's popped the heart in that sign as well. So lots of fun to be had with those birds, especially because they are tall, they've got all these long gangly limbs. If you did want to add wings, I'm just going to move those to one side a moment. You could, of course, pinch wings off the hare, and they would sit perfectly under there. This is what I mean about starting to mix and match and play about with stamps a little bit. Okay, let's move on to the hares. So this is KC019. Now, this is a kind of a crossover one, because what I did here, I took the bird body, so you can see here the bird body with the sign, and then I chopped the hare's head off and put it on the bird. It's really fun to play about. So you can see here, look, it's the bird body, but with the hare's head, and look, it's that cheeky robin again. And in the background, I think that, oh yeah, that's the feathers in the background there as well. And here is the spiral stamp. So this comes in the hare set, and that little spiral is just so useful as a filler. So that's a bit of a crossover card because it's the bird and the hare. Let's have a look at a few more of these samples. So here you can see head and shoulders. It's so easy just to chop things off, and then you can just cover it. I've covered it with a strip, a bit of ribbon, and it's layered over. This is the leaf stencil, and behind that is the feather stencil. Now this set also comes with a crown, but can you see how it's not actually sitting on his head here? It could have been, but I didn't have it. I had it kind of floating, but it does make them look a little bit kind of regal. And then of course the wings, if you don't want the wings, you can just chop them off. You don't have to have them on there. And you can see that spiral again. And here's the robin. It does actually belong to this set. See what a cute addition it makes though, just on the bottom of the card. And another one here where I've chopped it down. So the hare that has the jumper, he chops off really nicely along the line of the jumper. It seems it's just a really sensible place to chop. Here, look, I doubled up the wings to give them a little bit more volume. And I've added the crown, but this time the crown is actually sitting on the head. And you can see more prints there. I think that's the feathers in the background. And the robin, of course, it can feature just by itself. So when you have a small image, a really, really good way to make a bigger project is the repetition. So here I've repeated them in a line. Katie's got one actually, she's done something a little bit different, which I'll show you in a moment. Then I just added a little dictionary quote here of an old nursery rhyme, just to match that little row of birdies. It looks so cute. And this time, this is just a small, I had a little bit of like black chipboard, grey board I think maybe. And yeah, so I just built it up with a bit of a scribbly background and just put that one little robin in there. I really like birds, can you tell? And now this is let me move these out the way one moment. So this is a much bigger page. I did as a journal page. You can see I've actually built up a huge amount in the background here. I just love layers. And in the background here, there's lots of paper artsy tissue. There's lots of mini stamping. There's just so much going on, lots of like bits of alcohol ink splatters. Here's a little bit more. I also use the postcard tissue, so you'll see some of that in there as well. Then there's the spiral stamp from the hare set. And then I've chopped him off, but I didn't want him just hanging in midair. So the way to kind of complete that was just to put that little strip underneath and stitch it down. So he's kind of casually hanging his arms over the front, but it just means he's not hanging in thin air. And here's that little robin again. And then the quote, I just repeated it a bit. The quote is on the hare set, slow and steady wins the race. And I just repeated it, slow and steady, steady wins the race. And I'm not sure how much you can see of this because I covered it up with other layers, but underneath the robin is a feather just sponged through in the corner from the stencil. There's another one here. So there will be more on the page. Oh, yeah, there's another one there. They get a little bit buried in all the other layers, but it's such an easy way to build up those layers in your backgrounds. You don't need to use the whole stencil. You can sponge through just one bit. Then, of course, there's all this extra stamping, the spiral, the minis from, this is the pre-Christmas minis. That page was a lot of messy fun. I want to just show you now some of Katie's. Now this is gorgeous, isn't it? Just look at all that colour. And it's just as well, Katie puts me these little notes on the back. Because what she's done something really super clever here. So she's used the mandala stencil and then she's cut those circles out. So you can see it there now. So she's sponged through and then she's cut it out again, putting that image inside a circle. It works so well, and you can see the centre of that mandala stencil there as well. It's gorgeous, that, isn't it? It's just really bold, really striking. Look at that. There's a lot to love here. So she's braided the background to create, with the frescoes, so with the paints, to create this ombre effect. So she started off going red to green, and then she sponged through the feathers on top to create that effect. And it looks fabulous. But she's also, can you see how she's made the bunting? It's the upside down crown hanging from that little stitching there. And here, look at the end, she's put in the hearts to create an end of on that little, like almost like a little podium there. Super clever and really striking. And then Katie had a similar idea about repeating the robin. So remember, if it's such a tiny image, repetition works if you want to create something bigger. But Katie's done it in this circle shape. That's so lovely, isn't it? Yeah, infusions in the background. She's got the feather stenciled over the top, and then these beautiful little pink birdies. Now, he looks so cool sitting in the middle of this very colourful, powerful circle. Katie's, I'm not sure if you can see in this light, but she's added a lot of extra gold stamping as well on here, maybe like with the edge of a credit card or something, so it really is exploding out from the middle there. She's also, I think she's chopped the head off and angled it slightly. See, he's got his head on a like cute little angle there. It's so cool. And the final set then is the fish. These are KC020, 020. So remember, it's got this one much larger fish, then the smaller ones, and some swimming in a different direction. So this is a large journal page I did with mine. Now, I think you can see that background. This is the mandala stencil. So I did this with frescoes, lots and lots of frescoes, and then sponged through white on the top, and then added plenty of layers on top of that as well. But again, it's just a great place for that bigger fish to sit right in the middle. I don't know if you can you see the really glossy lips there? What a pout. Now I've added a few extra fish all swimming that one way, and then this one is swimming the opposite way with that quote, swim against the current. I do like that quote. It's all about, you know, be brave, do your own thing. Don't have to always follow the crowd. And I've added, a bit like Katie did actually in the last one, lots of extra gold marks coming out from that centre. Gives it a lot of power. Now these fish, again, I hand draw everything. So even though, let me just show you, these fish, there's two that meet here. So even though these are, they kind of look identical, they're not quite identical because I draw them individually. You could flip them digitally, but I just kind of like things to keep that hand-drawn look. So they're sort of identical, but not quite. And because they are meeting, they can have a nice kiss in the middle, or they could be just having like a little conversation. And incidentally, if we just go back to the bird, you could also have a fish on a stick. Don't ask me why, you just could. Now this one, and for any of you that might have been at the recent Frankfurt show, this was a little make and take. So that was my original one. So there they are, look, meeting for a little kiss in the middle. I don't know if you can tell, but oh yeah, there, look, super glossy lips there. And in the background, I've used a feather print. And this slightly different version, because there isn't a lot of time at Frankfurt. And some of you here might even have done that one in Frankfurt. A couple more samples here that Katie's done. So, infusions. Through a stencil, so you can see feathers, I think, there. Lots of spirals. super colourful fish. And this is a mini from a previous collection. Divine. And Kate has used it here to build up almost like seaweed, but look at how she's got the fish swimming in and out. And in the background, now let me, if I can move that a bit closer. So she's used the texture to create a little wave effect in the background there. So I think that is it now. So just as a reminder, the birds are KC018 or 18. The hares with the extra little robin and the spiral is KC019 or 19. And the fish, KC020 or 20. And the stencils, there is the mandala, the circle shape is 503. The leaf is 504. And the feather is 505. And I do hope you'll join me in a couple of weeks, so same time, same place, couple of weeks. We'll be sharing it on the socials, and I'm going to be doing a lot of playing with you with creating different characters, mix and matching, putting, you know, hair heads on birds and, you know, playing about, adding wings. So do come and join me for that. It would be lovely to see you there. Now this video will be downloading it after, putting it back in the group. Don't forget, it'll also be on YouTube. You can revisit, and do go back and look in the guides, because all the previous videos I've done are still there. So sharing on colouring in techniques, printing techniques, all sorts there. So huge thank you to Katie for all her fabulous samples. Huge thanks, of course, to Paper Artsy for all their kind of assistance, help, and just general technical wizardry. Thank you to the whole team. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you can create too. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time.